In the previous video, we spoke about the building blocks that make up Divi 5. And these are your main section right here. And then here we have your rows. And then we have our columns. And then we have our main module here. And we also discussed that every single building block has these 3 tabs, and they differ according to the actual module that is or that you've selected. So in this video, we're going to be talking about the customizations that we can do to these building elements. So I know I touched a bit on how the section here works. So if you select it, you can go in, you can add a background color, you can add things like a link. You can also come over here to the design tab. You can add what are known as dividers. So for example, if you come here, you can add a divider that looks like that. You can choose something like that. So it just depends how you want to further customize it. Okay. But what we're going to focus on today, or in this video rather, is the spacing and the sizing elements. Okay. This is very, very important. So you can find these over here. So let's say I choose my module here, my text module. If I come over here, you're going to notice that there are so many things I can go in and customize. So for example, on the text here, I can go with the text font, and I can also go with the sizes and so on. Now, in a modern working, which is consistent across the whole website, you should not go in and select each item here and give it its value. You rather do that with the variables, okay? And this is very, very important. It's key in designing your websites in a very, very awesome way. All right, so how do we do this? So you'd come over here to your variable manager, okay? You click on that, and this is where you want to set everything before you even get started. So let's start off with the fonts here. So I've already gone ahead and added my headings font. So for example, if you want to change that, you can go in here and, change it to maybe this Abaya Libri, your body text, you can change this to actor, save the variables. And then when you apply changes, it applies it across the whole website. That means you don't have to go in. And in fact, let's close out of here. You don't now have to go in here and set your fonts every single time. That is going to frustrate you, and it just makes you very confused. If you come back to your website, 2 months later, you have no idea what font you've chosen and so on. But if you use the variable manager, you can just come over here and pretty much take a quick look and see what is happening. So if you change your headings here in your body font, this is where it updates. You can also add more fonts here. You give it a name, and give it its name like that. So we could say subheadings, for example. So it just depends how you want to structure your website. But the most important thing here is you need to set everything up over here. It's very, very important. And here I'm going to just bring it back to my font, which is Poppins. And then for my headings, I'm going to set this to Inter. Okay, I'm going to save. Oops, continue editing. Okay. Now, there's also another button which is very important as you're designing. So if you want to see how things are looking, you can just click on save, and you can just click here on preview, and it will show you how things look like as you're designing your website. Next, let's talk about the next item here, which are your colors. So your colors are also very, very important as you're designing your website. So if you want to set up, let's say all your call to action colors, you can come and do it over here. And let's say we choose, let's go with this color right here. So that means all my secondary colors are going to be set to that. Now, if I say save variables and apply, oops, let me just click on continue editing, close out of here. So let's say I want to add, let's say a new item here. Let's duplicate this. Okay. So let's say I want to add a background color to this. I can now go into background, and remember I changed my color earlier on. If I now click here, you're going to notice that my secondary color now has been added here, and I can easily go ahead and select it like that. So the variable manager is very, very important when it comes to setting up anything that is going to be applied across the whole website. Okay, and there's further items we can do. We can also do links, we can do images, we can do text, we can also do numbers. Now, numbers is also very important because this is where you get to set your font sizes. So that's your variable manager and how it works. In this video, let's take a practical look at how you would use the variables manager. So I'm going to show you one example because in the previous video, I showed you how to use the colors. So this time I'm going to use the text size. All right, so let's dive in. So over here, we have what is known as a clamp calculator. Now, this is very important because, you know, before we used to design our websites, we used to add a specific size for our fonts, like 14 pixels or 20 pixels or 30 pixels. Now, that is not very, very good because it is not mobile friendly. Okay, it is not fluid. So we want a font which changes size based on the screen size. And this is why we use clamp for our font sizes. All right, so here I have my clamp calculator. I'm just using this for my normal body text, okay? So I've already gone ahead and calculated this based on my maximum viewport, which is 1280 pixels, and my minimum is going to be 400. And this is for my normal text on my screen, which is going to be about 16 and maximum size 18. All right, so let's go ahead and add our value. So this is our value right here. I'm just going to copy that whole thing, come over here, and then I'm going to go to my variables manager. Now, this is where I can now go into my numbers here. And then I can say body text. Now, of course, you can add, you know, whatever values you need to add here. You can add your sizes for your headings, your H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, and so on. You just need to go ahead and add every single one of them here and make sure you label them. But for this example, we're only going to use our body text. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and save the variable. I'm going to say apply to changes. Okay. Oops. Let's go back in. I think I did something wrong. Okay, there we go. We have it. Okay, so we're going to say continue editing. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to save this and refresh. So now, instead of choosing a specific size, what we're going to do, in fact, let's duplicate this. Okay. And in here, we are going to remove the heading, so at least you can see exactly what is happening here. So now I just have my body text, which is what we adjusted using our clamp calculator. So if you want to set up the size for this, you would come over here to design, text. So instead of adding, let's say 15 pixels or 20 pixels or 30 pixels, what you do is you come over here to this little icon here like that. And now you can see we have our body clamp. Do you see that? That means that my size now, my text size is going to be this exact clamp value that we have over here. So I don't need to go in and type it in manually every single time. And this is really, really good for our variable manager. It's a much better workflow, and I don't need to cram or memorize any sizes over here because everything is all set by this value over here. Now with that, when you go to smaller screens, you don't have to go in and adjust this because it gets smaller based on the screen size. So it looks perfect on screen size, on different screen sizes. So what you want to do now is to go ahead and add all your headings over here. So H1, H2, H3, H4, H5. And by doing that, you are going to have sizes which are consistent across the whole website. So that's the second way that you can use variables. Now, as I mentioned before, there's also other things that you can go in and set here. You can go in and set your global string, images. You can add a global image here. You can also add links if you want to. I don't normally use links. Colors is the most important one. You want to go in and add all your colors. In this example here, you can see we have our heading text, body text, secondary color, primary color. You can also add even more shades, transparencies. You can just go crazy and add all your colors in here. The fonts, the same thing. You can add your headings font, your body font, your subheadings. If you want to add more, you can just keep on adding all your fonts here. The good thing about that is every time you want to go in and change the color of something, the color can be found in this example here. We have our text, so we're going to go to our text color. So where is our text color? Okay, there we go. So that's our text. So we pick a color from by coming over here, and here are your global colors. So we have our primary color, secondary color, heading color, and body text color. So if you select that, then it's easier to find as you're designing your website. So that is the power of using variables. All right, so in the next few videos, we're going to be talking about laying out content on your website. So we're going to be covering how to do it using columns. We're also going to be talking about Flexbox. We'll also talk about groups and so on. So let's start off with laying out your website content in a very basic way. So we're going to start off with a basic layout here. We have our main section here, and we also have our row settings set to a single column. So let's say you want to go in and perhaps add three blurbs. So you're going to click here on this plus button, and we're going to choose our blurb, just like that. So what's going to happen here is if we choose 2 or 3, they're going to be stacked one on top of the other, but that may not be the way you want to have it. So this is where now you'd go in and choose the column structure. So let's say you want to have 3. So you'd come over here to your column structure and then choose 3 columns. In fact, let me do this one more time. 3 columns. Okay, there we go. So with these 3, this is where now you can say, okay, in this one, I'm going to add a blurb here. I'm going to come over here, add another one, and then add the third one. And this is okay. It's perfectly fine. If you save this and you do a quick preview, you can see these are your 3 blurbs, and you've literally gone in and set up a basic structure. Okay. Now let's say you want to take a look at this in a tablet view. Boom. Okay. You can see now they all shrunk a little bit. If I go to mobile view, notice what happens. It changes its structure. So this is the safest way to build your website. Okay. So let's go back over here. So we can continue adding on more items here. So let's say this time we want to add an image. So we can say, okay, single column. And in this column, we're going to add an image like that. But we want to drag this column here to the top like that. And now we have an image here on the top, and we have 3 items here on the bottom. And again, if we save this, we can do a refresh here and see what it looks like. There we go. We have our main image here, and then we have our content over here. So this content can vary. We can have text, paragraphs, you name it. It's pretty much up to you how you're going to have this content. Now, it may look like, okay, this way is, really good, but there's also other ways that you can structure your content, and I'll show you in a moment. But while we have this open, there's other settings that you may need to know when it comes to structuring your content. So let's say you want to reduce this space that we have between these columns here. This is where you would come over here to your row settings. You go into design, layout, and you can see here we have flex setup. We can actually go into block, okay, and then reduce the gap between your columns. See? So we can increase it, we can reduce it. Now, if we go all the way to 1, we are going to have no spaces between. But if you go to 2, then you've reduced that gap. So just bear that in mind as you're designing with columns. The next thing we're going to do here is if we hover over here, we can see we have a plus button here. If we click that, it adds another row. Okay, so this is where you can choose what you want to add in here. So perhaps maybe it is an accordion. You can just go ahead and add like that. Okay, so again, if we come over here and take a look at the layout, you can see that it changes. based on the content. And this is pretty safe to design this way. Okay, so let's say we want to change it back to normal. We can just go back over here to 3, and then you can just rearrange your content. So as I mentioned, this is the easiest and safest way to structure your content as you're building your website. Okay. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to structure your content in a similar way, but this time we are going to use Flexbox.